right, everybody. Welcome to the Thronestoberfest 2019 live draft. I am Roy Rogers, the co-organizer of this year's Thronestoberfest, and joining me for this year's commentary is the Thrones War format Moneyball master himself, the hired gun who did the data crunch for the winning Team Targaryen, Trey. Alsup, how you doing, Trey?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm sure Sid's very happy with me taking all of the credit for his and Buzz's victory at Thrones War.
Well, I mean, isn't that? I mean, I'm not a super sports person, but isn't that what the behind the scenes office people do anyway in sports, right? They just take credit for the
That's all
hard
you
work
got,
of the actual players, right? So,
right? Yeah, I'll
uh,
take it.
you'll take it.
I'll take it.
For those of you who have never tuned in before for this kind of draft and this kind of event, Thrones War is a format that was pioneered and created by Ryan Jones. Actually, it stands for Weekend at Ryan's. And we want to thank Ryan and the California community for letting us export it here to the East Coast and in a couple weeks to the UK. And so the way it works is that we have 8 set of regents. They're teams of two that will be drafting their own team today of 8 players alongside a faction. And they are only going to be able to play decks of that faction in the tournament. And they are only able to play 2 versions of each agenda. And then they will play a round robin Swiss event where, so Greyjoy, so let's say Vac and Tom get Team Greyjoy. They'll play against every other faction. So set 7 rounds of Swiss on Saturday. And then everybody who finishes X and 2 will compete on Sunday to both decide at the end who will be the team champions and who will be our Thronestoberfest 2019 individual champion. So this is a really cool format, very popular. Sandy, our auctioneer, is right behind us. I don't. They still got 9 minutes, so they're.
I'm just conveying that.
All right. So Sandy is our auctioneer, and he is in my apartment here at Draft Central.
Oh dear.
Uh, and so going into this, Trey, who do you think is got a good shot when we get started in about 9 minutes to sort of dominate this draft?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is because this is a lot of unique things about this particular Thrones War event, right? Style event, in that I feel like never has there been less certainty about house values going into a tournament. We're kind of expecting a restricted list, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think you might just look at which sets of regents you think are the strongest players and think they would have a strong advantage coming in just based upon, you know, regent strength themselves. So that's my thought. I don't think I can make predictions because I feel so uncertain about this particular meta. You know, we're about to draft on a meta we don't know yet, which makes things really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how, regents react to this. I think this is also, correct me if I'm wrong, this is kind of like the first time where we've had 2 regents per team without like the money coming out of the regent's auction to pay for the second regent. Like when you were regent for Thrones War, you had to pay in
Spend
order to
money
have
for Voldemort.
some person join you on your team. So
Yes. We did foreclose that just because that was like a headache and a lot of emotional labor for Ryan and the other regions that were involved. And I thought it would just be more fun for everyone if they just pick somebody. And I think we actually have pretty balanced teams here. Like I don't think anyone like super overpowers their partners. Like I think that everybody brings their own unique skills, and I think each team has at least one like top tier, highly Jamie, spiky, whatever player psychographic you want to use player to sort of help, and then you have people who bring other skills. So I think that they're relatively balanced.
I agree. I think the
So
organizers of this event have done just a perfect job
thank you,
setting up the
Trey.
format
I know you're buttering
setting
me
up the
up because I've
structure.
gotten the
This is
back.
clearly the best Thrones War event that's ever happened.
Yes, I mean I agree, but Ryan and Schoenthal might think otherwise. But I actually think just to sort of people. So last year's winner, which is Mike Aruro and his partner Alex, he won last year with Team Greyjoy. And so people who from last year, Talia Dean, whose partner is Mira Bird, was also a regent last year. And of course Aaron. Aaron and his partner, with his partner Chris Schoenthal, although Chris didn't. Did Chris come to Thronestober last year? Or Thronestoberfest? No, he didn't. But Glazer was a regent last year. Everybody else is new. Tom H.K., Austin, Mel Palmer, and James McKenna. Although Austin's partner Martin was one of the regents last year, and of course Tom's partner Chris Vack was a regent last year. Um, so we have a good mix of people who are a bit more experienced in the format. And of course Matt.
Yep.
Matt was the auctioneer last year and also went for $1, famously at last year's draft. So we did make rules to crack down on Matt Gaiman's style playing around with the dollar values of players. So this should be, for the Edward Kims out there in the world, this should be a much more engaging draft than it was last year. So we'll see.
Well, what did you actually do? You said you put in some rules. I'm curious now. What
I
did you?
explicitly banned horse trading or collusion to
Collusion.
fix
It's against
prices
the
of
spirit of the
players
game. All
against
right.
the spirit of the draft. So, and
Gotcha.
all the regions agreed. So
Good.
yeah, so it should be a really good time. Let's see. We've got a couple more minutes. Let's see if chat's got anything. No, yep, no trading of equine, says Schoenthal. There will be no horse trading. And before we really get started, I want to thank, of course, the people who made this possible. Number one, of course, would be Sandy Barnabas, who is doing the auctioneering, herding the cats of our very opinionated regents today, and of course Buzz Aldrin, who did the beautiful overlay and spreadsheet here to make this all work, and of course Redcap's Corner, which is the store that this is going to be hosted at. They are the premier gaming store here in Philadelphia. They are one of my favorite places to play in the country because they're big, like it's a very big space, and they're BYOB, so
Whoa.
makes it a very fun and very inclusive gaming store. So I want to make sure that we shout them out. And of course, Second Sons, which is sometimes hosted on this channel and sometimes on Buzz's channel, which we'll have a new episode this Tuesday at 10 p.m. EDT. Right? We're still on daylight savings time until the end of the month, right? So.
Sounds right.
So tune
I can
in
look it up.
to hear what we think about how this went. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say, Trey?
No, I think we'll talk a little bit more later about maybe like house values, restricted list. I think again that's gonna be the big thing we
Right.
don't know what happens this year is what values people place on houses. Do they have a sense that the banhammer is going to come down on Greyjoy and Stark in a big way? It'd be interesting to see where all these different houses go and how much money goes towards houses.
I, I,
I've always been pushing for, like people to actually spend more on houses, that there's often profit at the top of the auction. But when you don't know what the meta is going to be going in, it's hard to feel confident, betting a third of your, budget on a single house.
I think that's true. I mean, I think the biggest question is, I think if Danny does do a restricted list in the foreseeable future, like Greyjoy is who he's coming for. So the question is, are you willing to take a risk that Greyjoy gets pummeled in the next restricted list? But there's also the co-risk, which is that what if he fails at like actually lowering the power level of Greyjoy? So what if like we saw this with Stark, right? Like last year, one of the reasons why we were very explicit about when the restricted list kicks in, which is in October, we set a date for the card pool. You can read it in our official rules, which are on the Thronestoberfest Facebook page. Was that last year a restricted list came in at the last minute, and there was some debate about whether we should make it legal.
Hmm.
We ended up making it legal, and the Team Stark didn't really. They thought that the restricted list really hit their decks, but if you look a few weeks later at the World's meta, Stark was actually in a really good place. So the question is, and if you look at Danny's previous attempt to lower the power level of Greyjoy, that was clearly a failure. Even though it did get rid of Sea of Blood decks, if you look at this Summer of Squid that we've had, both mid-range mid-range Greyjoy decks and Drown God are both busted. And so the question is, so let's say you think Greyjoy is going to get hit. So you've got to gamble about, okay, I don't want anything to do with Greyjoy because they're going to get 5, 10, 2 cards restricted. But what if that doesn't work and I'm leaving possible money on the table or value on the table by just taking a risk on Greyjoy? Because, Greyjoy has survived, like, what, 3 restricted lists have at least, hit Greyjoy, attempted to hit Greyjoy and has not succeeded in, like, really lowering its power level. So the question is, will Danny succeed this time? Will third or fourth time be the charm? I don't know. So the same is true
Well,
for
talk
like
to me.
Thunderstorm.
I haven't been paying attention. You tell me. It seems like people are very confident about a restricted list coming in. Is
Hold on,
this
hold on, Trey. They're getting started now. So Sandy just yelled at me for the other room. We'll come back to this. I'm sure that something will go sideways, and we'll have plenty of time
all
to
right? The
talk.
first nomination
Is Derek Shoemaker. So Derek is, of course, the 3-time Northeast Championship Tour event champion. He won 2 of our tour stops this past year back to back. He's currently at $10 with James McKenna, 15 from Tommy 2K. Derek is also a former world champion. He designed a 1.0 card called Northern Patriarch. And probably has some ridiculous win rate on Jousting Pavilion. He's had a really amazing year and is, I think, one of the most dominant players in the Northeast. 21, by the way, is what Glazer's currently bidding.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the sign up sheets here, and he says that his favorite house to play is whatever Aaron tells him to play.
Or Sark.
So,
Having.
well, okay, but it doesn't say that. But yes, I believe you when it says that.
Time's up. It looks like Aaron did purchase his good friend Shu for $21, which I think is actually a steal. Um,
Right?
I
Maybe.
think Derek's value is, so this would be twice the nominal value of a person. I think he
I
might even
think
be higher.
if you believe that Derek is one of the top 10 players in this that's available in this year's draft pool, then that was probably a really good buy for Aaron. A lot of times at the beginning here, I always feel like there's a real opportunity for bargains as the regions are trying to figure out, what to pay for top houses and top players.
So Mel just threw out Targaryen, which Glazer is sitting at $16 for. So Targ, I think, is probably going to be one of the factions that isn't hit by this restricted list should it exist. Because I mean, Targ, until this recent German Targaryen list, has really been out of the meta for half a year, maybe, at least since Worlds. Like, it was significantly hit by the previous restricted list.
But
With
didn't CT just take it to a final?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the German list that also went to the finals at German Nationals. But before that, there wasn't. So before, I guess, this summer, there weren't very successful Targ decks for about 3 or 4 months minimum.
So this is up to 24 from Glazer. So whatever happened at UK Thrones War is not happening here, right? I mean, didn't Targ only go for like $4 at UK Thrones War? So whatever period where Targ was out of favor seems to be over. It's gone back and forth. James McKenna came in for 25, Glazer's at 26.
Glazer's throwing around the money early. 27 for McKenna. I'm very, 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 very interested that people are willing
This
to throw
seems
money
like a
out at
lot
this.
of money, or certainly a confidence that Targ will be very well situated after. Okay, I think we may have our first controversy here. James McKenna was at 27. Glazer said 28, and it looked like Sandy called it.
Nope. It looks like we've got. He says, never mind. Looks like they're going back. Let me check. There's an advantage of having him in my house. Looks like they are.
So is it reopened then?
I believe it is. Nope. It's Glazer at 28. James.
But is it reopening or is that final?
I think James declined the ability to follow that up. So 28 to Glazer.
So it may be a little bit of work for Sandy. We may want to suggest to him that he do a little last warning on some of these.
Yeah.
But
So
or maybe we're just not hearing it.
yeah, they are doing it on vocally as well. So
So we have a chat for people. We have a chat that we can see the bids here, and that's the official thing. What they say
yes.
doesn't matter. That's right.
Yeah. So Greyjoy is currently thrown out initially at 15 by Tom HK and is now sitting at Matt Gaiman at 19, Team Canada. So I mean, this is interesting. Like we've got two back-to-back two factions, um, and it looks like
That really shouldn't be that surprising
Oh,
though.
Greyjoy loyalist Mike has jumped in. Tom HK at 22. What Trey?
Well, I'm just saying, I feel like a lot of times at the beginning of the draft, there's opportunity for bargains as people are figuring out, especially if you've had like changing numbers. This is a smaller draft, so people aren't sure about what to pay for things. And also, one of the best things you can do in this draft is get your house early. This is over, so Tom HK actually gets
Got it.
Greyjoy at 22. Got so
That's great.
Michael Royo not getting the thing which has done so well for him. Oh
Mike
dear.
is gonna have to play with non-grayish squid cards. I've never actually seen him do that, so it's gonna be interesting. The Mystery Knight. Okay, for those of you who missed,
Explain this.
so a player specifically asked me to not tell who they were. This was something they suggested. And so last night, if you were following various Throne social media, there was lots of controversy over who this Mystery Knight could be, and it's currently sitting at $12. Theories that were thrown out that it could be my wife, Alexandra, Alla. It could be Corey Faraday. It could be Dan Struhall. It could be Tom Malucci. It could be some jokes are made about it being James Booker. But the question is, who is the Mystery Knight? And we will find out soon with $13 going to nope, James to 12 for 12. Okay, they're currently debating whether or not James got it for 12.
Yeah, if not, Austin did do a bid for 13. It's just
Yeah.
whether that was too late or not.
Yes, that's what we're trying to figure it out.
So at 13, that seems to suggest that people might have a good idea about who this is.
I mean, there's definitely some theories. I think the two ones that it kind of settled about was whether or not it was my wife or it was Malucci. Those seem to be the two that were sort of crystallizing, I think, by the end of the evening. Um, but so we will be able to reveal that shortly once they figure out that figure that out in a second.
So right, if that was Tom Malucci, that's a fantastic price.
So
And if it is your wife, then that is a fantastic price.
yes, with all of her amazing Thrones experience, $13 is a steal.
We got another player up.
Okay, we got another player up. Bryn. So Bryn is one of the players of the Knights of the Competitively Hollow Hill out in the DC. He had a bit of a tear last year, winning a Northeast Championship Tour event and placing at the cut at several others, and sort of like being a very innovative deck builder. He was one of the first people to have success with the non-combo Tyrell Dragon. That was pretty popular, this time last year. And he's, I think, definitely one of the stronger players in the pool. And he's sitting at now $15 from Glazer.
We've seen Mel bid on this player. We've seen Talia bid on this player. James McKenna bid on this player. So a lot of respect from a lot of different regions here.
5. All right, so we're at 5. Nope, it's Talia. It looks like we got one of these little bit of a game of chicken here, which is a classic bidding in Thrones War style stuff. 5. All right, we're cutting down. 5, 4, 3, and it looks like Bryn is going to Talia for 16, which I think is pretty. It's on the lower end maybe for Bryn, but still I think not outrageously low.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, money is down because we have fewer people this time. But again, if Bryn is in the top 10 of our players here, then that's a very good deal. And I think you'd say that of the people we have playing here, that's not a crazy idea.
No, it's not a crazy idea. You know, Bryn, he's not as much of a grinder as some other people. But speaking of a grinder, CT thrown for $1 by Talia.
A cheeky dollar.
A cheeky dollar. So we're gonna watch it climb. $5 for Austin, $10 from Mike, $12 from James. I mean, does CT really even need to be talked up? Recent second place at U.S. Nationals is just his most recent accomplishment, and you know we did a whole thing on Second Son stroking CT's ego earlier, so I don't need to do it live on this stream today. But CT is definitely in the top 5 of the players in the draft, and it's showing so far. Most expensive player?
Currently at 22 to Mel.
22 to Mel. And I think that puts him over Derek. If I double check the spreadsheet.
Derek was 21. Yeah.
21, yep. So
James McKenna at 25. Glazer had gotten in there with 23. So we're kind of at the point here where this probably, like 25, 26, 27, this probably should be the ceiling on any individual player, given the amount of budget that people have here. I would say, in my Mel Kiper thinking, it's hard to justify more than this unless you feel like this player is going to like act as your hand. They're going to design a bunch of decks for you. They're going to help organize the team and run practices and stuff on Iron Thrones. So it finished James McKenna at 27.
27, all
for Chris
right.
Thompson.
Lamzik and McKenna snatch up CT. All right, Matt Gaiman throws out Colt Humbert for $1. All right, Colt, you know, he is part of the world famous Humbert meta. He's a big innovator. He was one of the big innovators of the combo decks that have become popularized by Sandy Barnabas. He was a regent at JND2 for Team Tyrell. He's all around the nice guy, and no offense to Storm and Race, my favorite Humbert, and Slade. So
There's 4.
There are 4 of them. Yeah. So we have all of them, I believe, in the draft. So
Yes.
you know, this is the first Humbert thrown out there, and you know, I mean, and so far, like, I think they're underpaying. Like, if it, there we go. Austin jumps it up to $10. Now,
Well,
now we're
even
talking.
so, I think this will get to 20, won't it?
It probably will.
I think so. I think nobody wants to show that they're interested.
Yeah, one of the things that surprises me is it doesn't feel like anyone has actually really thrown out like a fade here. You know, where they've thrown red meat to somebody that they wouldn't necessarily want on their team. I think maybe Mel threw Targaryen out as like because she's known for being a Targaryen loyalist. But I think so far people have just put people out that they want. Like, spoiler alert, I know that Glazer wanted Derek. And I mean, that's obvious. They're very good friends, former build group members together. And he was on the team with Glazer last year. So, and now Colt is up to 18 from Austin. All right, there we go.
I think he'll still keep going.
20
I
from
did
Mel.
I did consult with Mel and Stevie Bree a little bit prior to this auction, and Aaron and Chris talked to them a bit. So I don't think it's a secret that Mel liked Targ, and if she could have gotten Targ at a price that she felt good about, she would have. But 28, I think, is a lot higher than anybody thought that would go. Or certainly it's a lot higher than I thought it would go.
All right. 23 for Colt from Austin. Excuse me. Looks like maybe Matt and Sean are going to try to get in there. Yep, looks like they did. Oh, Matt got in before Glazer at $24 for Colt. All right. And they're counting down there. It looks like Team Canada might have its first pickup. Yeah, its first pickup with Colt, which I think, unless somebody shoots in at the last second here.
Not sure that this is final yet.
I think. Seeing if it's final.
Unless you're hearing things I can't see.
Yep, it looks like, yes, Colt did go to Matt and Sean for 24. And then Anil. So Anil has made a big splash, I think, recently. He
Yep.
is a famous L5R player and had a great run. My dog is getting ready to go for her walk, so I apologize to anyone who just heard Mira bark. And Anil just had a great run at U.S. Nationals, is organizing this Thrones World Cup that has really taken the community by storm, and is one of the best L5 players in the United States. He's just begun his Thrones career, but so far so good. And you definitely see that the hype is real on Anil,
The
and
bidding is going crazy.
you know
Well, it's been a lot of different people getting in here. It's at 18 to Tom HK currently.
it looks like
Again,
they're counting down. It looks like maybe. Yep, it looks like it went to Tom HK.
I feel yeah, it's hard to say, but I feel like the kind of top players are going cheap
Yep.
right now. We'll see how this shakes out. I think a lot of times people have an expectation from having played rotisserie baseball or fantasy football or some of these games that are auctions that it's good to get a lot of money out there early, have other people overspend, and then you'll get bargains uh, later on. I haven't really seen that from the Thrones community. Sometimes people overpay for like top talent to get a hand like player, but right now we might see actual like discounts at the top 10. It seems to be what we're seeing.
Yep, absolutely. And Martell was just thrown out by Aurora, by Mike, and James McKenna just bid $3. So this is like how the mighty have fallen, right? Orange cards,
Hmm.
they came in, I believe, second last year at Thronestoberfest. They've won past Thrones War events, but I mean Martell has had a bad year. Um, since it won Worlds late last year, it like really hasn't made a major splash in the meta. And James McKenna just got Martell for $3.
Right. I mean, um, Michael Royo threw that out at a buck, and it felt like it would actually go there
I mean, it took
at
like
the buck
10
until
seconds.
James jumped. Yeah, then James jumped in with three, and now they have it. All right, so I'm not sure who's this next player that's been nominated, Roy.
Me. Okay, bye Matt. So Mel should not spend $4. It's important to understand that this person is also the TO at this event and will be organizing it. So whatever moderate value I bring to a Thrones War team, I have a very inconsistent Thrones War record.
All right, so bidding seems to have stalled out at two. Kind of
Um,
here.
no, it's 10 now, which is
I
foolishness, Mel.
It's kind of stuck on my screen. It's stuck at two, I
Well, it
think.
should probably be stuck at 2. Uh, but and Maddie swings in for 11.
Okay,
So
so you made double digits.
I did,
So
I did, and so ML 12. So I'm both. All these people are overpaying for me. Like I am going to be doing about a million different things on this day, and I can make no promise to my future regent that I will be able to focus on my games in a way that. Oh, Matt swings in at the last second for lucky 13 for me, which would be interesting.
yeah, this is a real thing. You're not just being modest when you're running an event. Um, Running an event itself has got to be incredibly stressful, taking up so much of your time, and the idea that you're going to play your best games while that's going on is ridiculous. I certainly remember seeing Ryan Jones trying to play and run the event at the same time, and as mighty as Ryan Jones is, it just takes a toll.
It does, and particularly when you're. It's not. These are not simply put people into jousting pavilion, press the button pairings. For a normal
Ooh.
joust event, you have to manually do all of the pairings. But I think I went to Team Canada, which is my adoptive co-country now, since I am married to a Canadian. Thank you, Matt, for overpaying, significantly overpaying, and hurting our team. And Talia throws out Night's Watch. Trey, what do you think about Night's Watch in this format?
Well, I think Night's Watch has consistently kind of like overperformed in the Thrones War format compared to how they do in individual tournaments. And then I would not be surprised if this was the most expensive house that we saw today, both because it's done so well in this format. It's gotten some really good cards lately. I think everybody's expecting Greyjoy to be hit really hard, so this will be curious where it goes. The only downside is that I think a lot of the success of Night's Watch in the Thrones War format has been playing builders, and not every player is dying to play builders. But if you're playing to win, builders is usually a really good strategy for this format.
Yeah, and it
You've
can,
been on a bunch of these teams, so you tell me how it typically goes
yeah,
down.
I think that builders is really good and attrition. So it gives sort of people have two options where basically you can
Yeah.
play either an attrition style deck or you can play builders. I mean, you saw the JND2 team that I was on that won. That was basically our strategy. It was
Hmm.
basically everybody who wanted to play builders played builders, and everybody else basically with a few sort of special brews by like Benji
And
and
it's the
things like that.
attrition that just got help.
Yes,
Attrition just got a ton of help. You know,
bound for the law.
yeah, and I was thinking like maybe this wouldn't help because
We're
those
at
cards,
24, by the way.
as good as those cards are, they don't help with builders. But um, yeah, I like if I were a player and I got on Night's Watch, I think I would want to play attrition just because I want to have fun.
Yeah, and I enjoy a good builders as much as anyone out there. But
All right,
and I think
we
it's
are at 30,
30,
so we are now the most expensive house.
and it's particularly true. Like I think Night's Watch is a safe bet because if you think Greyjoy is going to get hit, even if it only gets hit moderately, Greyjoy is currently one of the worst matchups for builders. Um, and so that means builders is going to get better. And the problem I think though is Barra has gotten a lot better recently. And so this could be a breakout Thrones War or Thrones War format event, war format event for Barra. And Barra is just a garbage matchup for builders. But many of its other matchups remain good. It still remains good against Targaryen. It still remains good against Lannister. It still remains good against Stark,
All
and
right,
things
it
like
is up
that.
to
So
34. So we had
34.
Austin at 30, Arroyo came in at 32, Mel at 33, and now Arroyo has capped that again at 34. So I think we're seeing a lot of teams at Night's Watch as the house they really wanted to grab here.
I mean, which is not wrong. I think I did the math. I think they either won the individual or team tournament in 3 of the last 5 war events. So that's pretty nuts.
All right, it's over.
And Aurora got it for 34. And we're now James Buchanan. Nick Hansen, former Thrones War champion. You were on his winning team, weren't you, Trey? The year he won?
I was on the first Thrones where I did. He finished second. No, he did win. Yes, he did win. No, did who? I'm going
He beat Kevin
crazy.
Shannon
Playing Martell. Yeah, he beat
playing
Kevin Shannon to
Martell
win that.
Rose. Yeah.
Right. Martell
Yeah.
came in second. He came in first. That was a great year. They're all great years, but I certainly remember that one. It was the first time you got the entire Second Sons together was at that tournament,
It
right?
was. It was a great. It was one of my favorite on a personal level. It was one of my favorite Thrones Wars of all time events that I've been to. Even though I did very poorly at that event. And now it's at 22. That's
Your
really. I
team
mean,
won though, if I remember.
no,
Did
my
Night's Watch won?
team
Oh,
lost.
lost.
I was on Stark that year, I believe.
Okay, okay. Was that
It
the
was the year
Bolton
Nick
year?
won. I think was the year I was on Stark.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be thinking it was maybe it was the year that Night's Watch won. I can't remember.
But yeah, Nick's a very well
Oh,
respected player.
very
He's up
very
at
well
20,
respected player.
$23, and it's still going. So one thing I think is interesting is yeah, Night's Watch just went for a lot of money. All right, Nick went for 23. That's over and goes to Michael Arroyo's team.
So
It'll be interesting to see whether people regret balking at some of these top houses later on. An extra buck or two for the house you wanted. I think people often regret that they didn't get the house they actually wanted to play later on in the draft.
so what's interesting so far is Austin and Mel have spent $0 so far. And Talia is not far behind with a big pool of money. So do you think? Well, I think we should start seeing them throw around their money now, and just thrown out was Scott Levine. My very good friend plays out of New York. He won Storming of Starpike 2 last year. He's a huge Martell player, a pretty innovative deck builder, and a very good attrition player. So he would be great on like Night's Watch or Team Martell. And I see James is making a big push for him. He's also a good close personal friend of Aaron's. So you see Aaron, Aaron's strategy, is frequently get his friends. Um,
Right.
and in this, and it worked out for him last year with Team Martell, and will probably work out for him this year too. And Scott, is a former Netrunner player, just a all-around nice guy and a great teammate, and he's a grinder. He does grind a lot on the Iron Throne, and as a teammate, I guess the main thing is he does like to play his own decks. So that's the only thing I would say that for Regents, he will want to just play his brew of something over, the team deck. All right, and it looks like Talia snatched up Scotty for 18, which is I think the highest Scott's gone for in this format. So congratulations, Scott. That's awesome.
That seems
And
like a good deal.
yeah,
That seems good.
I think that's yeah. Uh, So, and now we are at Breton. So Breton plays out of New Hampshire. He was at the final table of Melee at Gen Con, 2017, I think. And just recently was in second place at this year's Winds of Winter in Boston. All around, he's an actor, a very cool, very nice guy. Plays a lot of like Martell, plays a lot of I think Barra is what he played. Oh, he was also top 16 at Gen Con this year, playing Barra. So all around just a good, solid player. And it looks like he's going for the money.
Well, both Glazer and Tom HK have gone back and forth here from starting at 11 all the way up to 18. They've kind of matched each other. Now it seems to have stalled out at 18.
Which no, looks like
Uh,
Glazer got in at the last moment.
is Mel gonna
Oh
sneak
nope,
in
it
here at the
sounds like
last
it's
second?
too late that he got in just over the wire, and it looks like Tom HK will pick up Breton.
So is Sandy like locking out the bidding in voice chat? Is
I
that what's
I
happening
believe he
here?
is locking it out in voice chat. Yeah.
Okay. Because we need obviously there needs to be a countdown of some kind, but as long as it's happening in voice chat, then that's fine. We're not, for those listening at home, you're not listening to the voice
No,
chat. Could
I don't
not
have that
possibly.
much uh,
Yeah, no way.
cognitive. My cognitive load is already overwhelmed here with making sure that all the tech stuff and this is happening. All right, so Mel is back up. Let's see if she's gonna throw somebody that she wants to buy.
So one thing that may be happening that people haven't
Oh,
totally grasped. Go ahead.
well, just Stark was just thrown out. That's what I want to make sure that we
Stark is starting off at a buck here.
a buck
Um,
from Mel.
is that because every team already has a second regent in effect, a lot of the best players from the player pool are already out of the player pool.
Yes.
And so it'll be interesting to see whether I I'm just guessing right now. I feel like the players that we would call like top 10 or top 20 players are probably going a little bit cheap, where people may be thinking there's more depth to the top players out there than there really is. We'll see in an hour or two whether that is true, and we see money chasing after players that we would normally consider like not in the top half.
Yeah, the sort of median players
Hmm.
are I think
And
that
you can build a winning strategy around median players, but not by overpaying for them.
yes, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the year that who was the leader when the year that we won with I won with
Neil.
Night's Watch? Yeah, Neil. Neil. His strategy was very much based around either Night's Watch loyalists or median players, and it worked out. He ended up not overpaying for anyone, getting
Yeah,
Night's Watch at a good value, and it's
that's
like,
the real Moneyball strategy
yeah,
there of just underpay for a solid team top to bottom.
and that is similar to what you and Buzz and Sid did this past year for Team Targaryen too. So Stark is currently sitting at $7. How much the white cards have fallen? I think that this might be a product of the restricted list, which is really interesting to me. People are afraid the Stark will get hit again, But considering how aggressively people bid for Greyjoy, which I think is much higher likelihood of getting smashed by a restricted list with its like the summer of squid cards, um,
So that's in.
but it just
Stark
went.
at
Stark
7.
just went for $7, and Andros, the Storm Bro, Euro Bro himself, was just put up by Glazer for 10. And Talia raises it to 11. I mean, Andros is probably one of the most well-known players in the world that plays out of the Northeast. He's had a hell of a couple of years, winning one of the Northeast Championship Tour stops this year, top finish at Euros, top finish at U.S. Nationals, good record at Gen Con, just all around easily one of the best players in the country. And you see that because Mel has raised him to 20. His fellow Stormbra, Austin, has raised him to 21. And he is, of course, a member of the Storm Bros podcast with Austin and James Ostano and Dustin Archer. And they are one of the strongest competitive teams out there in Thrones. So it looks like Austin's willing to pay for his teammate, which I think makes sense. Both, they already build together, and like he knows Andros' strengths and weaknesses inside and out, and he knows he can work with him. And of course, people like to have their friends in this format, particularly if your friends happen to be really good at the game.
Well, it's not just they like it; it may be real value
Yeah.
in the war format to have people that are local and that you already know and don't have to get up to speed with. So up to 25 here. Are the Stone Bros? Is that a particular part of the country?
No,
Or
they're mostly Long Island. Andros, Austin, and Austin's brother James are Long Island, but Dustin plays in Texas.
right?
So they're somewhat local, but they also stretch. So Austin got him for $25. Um, which is, I mean, does that make him
That's
the
about
most
right.
expensive player? No. Let me take a quick glance at the
CT's at
spreadsheet.
27.
So CT, just under CT. I think that makes perfect sense.
And so I think like as we see a lot of times, we're still kind of early in the draft here. We really, really, really are. But like the ceiling has been established, right? Um, Maybe later on someone will go just because people have extra money to spend, but they're kind of saying the most you can kind of reasonably spend on any one player is in the $27 range.
Right, and I do apologize. Vac is also a Stormbra now, so I got to make sure that I give credit to Vac. So we've got, looks like we have a little bit of a spreadsheet error here, and while Sandy gets it
It's
fixed,
Mel and Ibree's strategy of
to
drafting Stark 27 times.
I
It's
mean
not going to really
I
work
mean
with the format here.
I don't know if that will 100% work, but we'll see. So far, I mean, any big surprises for you, Trey? Why they get this sorted out?
Yeah. To me, I think it's odd as because I'm usually the person saying people should spend more on house. Um, People are spending more on house than I certainly thought they would, and probably a little bit more than they should. But then again, I don't know what's going to happen with the restricted list. I don't know how other people are either. Is there any chance people know what's on this,
I mean,
Roy?
I'm sure people have theories, but
Hmm.
I don't think that there's definitely not been a list that's consistently been leaked or anything
Gotcha.
like that. So,
I mean,
you know,
it's been very consistent where like every kind of like war event, the amount that the entire pool has spent on house has gone up. And like we're now to the point where we typically spend 15% or more on house. And I expected this to go down or thinking it should go down because you should see a big compression after this restricted list where the houses come together a little bit. But people
one
are
would
not
hope.
acting that way. Yeah, people are not
Um,
acting that way. Or they're
Paul,
acting like it's going to change a lot, but there'll still be a big difference between the houses.
yes, definitely. Which, to be fair, follows historical trends.
Hmm.
Um, Danny has consistently failed to actually bring the houses in line with one another. Um, so John Palmer was just put up for 5 by Glazer and is now sitting at 9 with Tom HK. John Palmer, of course, was the Team Stark regent last year. husband to our regent this year, Mel Palmer. John is a very has had a good Thrones career, big finishes at U.S. Nationals in 2016, good strong Gen Con finishes, good finishes throughout the Northeast Championship Tour. All around, just like a very solid player, a very prominent former L5R player, and all around just good dude and Philly local. So, and it would make a great addition. He's definitely, I think, a 4+ win person. I think you can reliably think that John will get you those 4 wins that most regions are looking for from a player. And 10, I think, might be a little bit under John, but I think just playing that base 10 for him is pretty solid, because that's where it's sitting now with Glazer getting Palmer for $10.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the restricted list, like they're not going to ban a card, are they? I mean, like, or that's not thinking. And like, what could they do to actually, like, if Lannister we agree is the worst, and I don't know if we agree on that, but let's just say hypothetically that Lannisters are $1 house today. Like, what can you do on the restricted list that actually helps them?
Probably nothing. They would have to print good cards. But just to be clear, last year's champion Daryl Weber, who of course caused a little bit of trouble by being a fill-in player last year for a $1 player, and ended
That
up
was
taking.
that was your event, Roy? That
That
happened
was
in your
my
event?
event, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
no
and
controversy there.
oh, no controversy there at all. Daryl won. Took the whole thing down playing builders, and he just went to Mel Palmer for $23, which I think is about right. Daryl has been on a tear for the last year. Top finish at Worlds, strong finishes at Gen Con, just U.S. Nationals, just an all-around really. Oh, and he was very strong finish at JND too. Just all around good dude as well. So very strong player and here to
He ended up
defend
being
his
the
individual
fill-in in
title.
Thrones War too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or did you say that? Yeah,
No.
Lannister. We lost somebody, and then Daryl came in, and that kept Jim Hansen from committing ritual suicide.
Well, there you go. He saved Jim Henson's life. So
Yeah.
that's just all around good person. He's just the fill-in king. But this year he did properly sign up. So
So that's progress.
that
That's
is
good.
progress. So Mel for 23. Okay, so Sandy's currently fixing the sheet. So we can go back to the restricted list discussion. I mean, I think that no, I think you would have to radically alter the card pool with a restricted list to bring Lannister, non-Shadows Lannister, into line with the rest of the card pool. Um,
Right.
and
But
I
I
don't.
mean,
That's
right?
the.
Shadows Lannister hasn't really had, like, Shadows Lannister might be really good for this format.
But it's only 2 decks.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, before Lanny had none.
Yes, before Lanny had none, and that's definitely been shown in its recent results in this format, right? Um, Even solid teams. Although last year Lannister was routinely dismissed. People mocked Jess Thompson for drafting them, but she ended up, I think, finishing third with her team and placing 5 or 6 people in day two. And so, and kind of like being, they were in the running to win up to like the last couple of rounds of
Yeah.
it. So and Greyjoy ran the table last year. So the fact that I think they didn't lose a single round, so like that just shows you that again that Lannister was capable of surprising. And Mirando, yep, as being reminded in chat, Mirando was king of Swiss last year, Joe Mirando. So and he didn't even know how pinch of powder worked properly, and he still was king of Swiss. Um, so Lannister could surprise people. The Shadows build is good, but it is of course 1 to 2 agendas. So,
Hmm.
and 1 to 2 agendas a good team does not make. Oh,
Yeah, I feel like I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I still haven't seen the example in the Thrones War format where a regent like takes a house for $1 and then builds a team just on talent and wins the whole thing. I
didn't
think like just doing that, going to third with Lannister, it shows like she did a really great job, but that may be a little bit of the ceiling for the kind of cheapy house strategy.
didn't
Or
Johnny Wright win War Prime using that strategy with Martell early on in the game? Didn't he get Martell super cheap the year that he
that would be
won
before my time, so I
before your
couldn't
time?
tell you,
Okay.
and so it's not valid.
Okay,
If it
there we go.
happened back then it's not
That's
real.
fair. That's completely fair, Trey. But I think that the year that he won, which would be the year before you came on the scene,
And
um,
radically changed
before,
valuation theory.
yes,
Yes.
um,
And yes.
it was much more. It was still, I think, at that point, a much more also California tournament than it's become. But it's. I still think that that was kind of the last time that that strategy like really paid dividends. Um,
It's hard.
it is. I mean, like again, the problem is there's big differentiation across the card pool among factions, right? Like we could possibly get to the point where each faction has 1 to 2 decks that can compete in the tier 1, tier 1.5 space. But of course, since the addition of the limit to 2 agendas or 3 agendas, depending on the size of it, if Lannister's only good build, only 55 or better percent win percent rate build is Lanny Shadows, only 2 of your players have that kind of advantage. The rest of
Yeah.
you are playing with firmly medium decks and medium cards, or worse. So
So let's talk about that because I don't think it's impossible for you to win with like a $1 house. But what it takes to win with a $1 house is tremendous amount of discipline because you have to price enforce every other house. If you want to like win with Lannister at 1, that means you need to make sure that every other house is not going cheaply. And what probably more likely is going to happen then as you're price enforcing these other houses is that you end up getting one of them.
yes,
And I think a lot of times the people that end up with the $1 house are not the people that have done the work and done the spreadsheet and kind of have a really good idea of what everything should go for. But that is how you would do it. You'd have to make sure that there were no bargains in any other area. And then also that you didn't wait too long to get some of the top talent. If you're going to only do $1, you need to make sure that you were grabbing lots of great players early. And so that's just a lot of things to align
yeah,
for a winning strategy to come together, as opposed to grab a really strong house early. Even if it's at $39, that might still be just fine for Greyjoy for the last year. And then know what you have, draft a team that's good at Greyjoy, get a lot of people, do well, get a lot of people into the cut, have a great time, and drink a lot of beer. It's like that's a simple strategy that's
yeah,
fun and you can win with.
yeah. You definitely can. You definitely can win with that, right? I mean, like the central problem with the Thrones War format is the tension between it. Is at one point like an extremely competitive format, but also an extremely casual format at the same time. And I think that you run into that a little bit sometimes with drafting, right? Where you have people who, the Glazer strategy of draft your friends, or people you like in the community, and see and where the chips land where they may. You're going to have a good time,
Well, tell me
right?
what you mean by casual format, though. Or you're just talking about like sometimes the community can be casual. Like, what's casual about the format? I'm not
That
understanding you.
what I mean by that is I mean that like there are people who approach it more as that kind of I'm going to draft my friends. That's a good like bowling team, where we drink, we play some games, we have a good time, right? They don't necessarily vote that hardcore Jamie attitude towards the
I guess
format.
I'm just quibbling about like that's something inherent to the format of the game. It has
Right.
a lot
I
to
don't
do
think
with
it's
our
inherent to
community.
the. How am I put this? That's the
Yeah.
historian in me coming out. That's the embedded culture of the format. Is there is just people who take it a more casual approach, and then you have the hardcore spikes or the hardcore Jamies that like moneyball it like you, or even if they don't do that hard statistical approach, they still have their own very thought out system that they use.
All right.
And it looks
While
like we're
we've been
back into
chatting,
it.
yeah. Best
Uh,
player remaining.
is Alejandro. So sorry, Alejandro, didn't get an opportunity to talk you up. But I mean, does he really need an introduction at this point? He is up there with Tom Malucci and Chris Thompson as arguably the best player in North America. King of the NorCal meta, lovely, all around lovely human being, former host of the Wars to Come. And he went for 27 to Mel Palmer. And now Austin has thrown Barra out for $1. And the only biter so far is Talia.
No, we've
Oh,
got some interest here.
there's Matt. Okay.
Fortunes have changed for Barra.
Oh, yeah.
They're not exactly top of the charts yet, but they're gaining respectability. I thought they would do better after the recent, flood of cards into the card pool.
I mean, they did win German nationals, which is one of
Hmm.
the larger nationals. They did pretty well at Gen Con. Two decks in the top 16 is pretty solid, particularly again compared to where they were that time last year or even 6 months ago. I think that the Barra card pool is really difficult to solve. Like,
Hmm.
Barra has a lot of nominally powerful cards, but the synergies between them aren't apparent or aren't consistent.
There's kind of a lot of ways you can go with them too, right?
Hmm.
Like it's not necessarily a clear
Oh,
cut.
Matt, I think, swung in at the last second with Austin at 12 now, and Talia
We've
going to
got
13.
three different teams very interested in Barra here: Austin, Talia, and Matt. It's up to 14. Appears to slow, but 15. So Barra's getting a lot of respect.
I definitely think that, I mean, I think it's almost inarguable that Barra will not be hit by this restricted list, right?
Right.
Um, so if let's say the power
That
level
would be my
of
guess. Yeah.
Stark and Greyjoy is lowered by this, maybe that's at a point where Barra is competing with them, right? If like if I don't know, we take Restauros, some bunch of Drown God cards are restricted. What's that annoying guy? Old Grey Gull. All those like annoying Drown God cards are restricted. Greyjoy loses a lot of things. Mira gets restricted. Mira Reed, the card to be clear, gets restricted. Um, those go
All right,
down.
so let me
Maybe
tell you
Greyjoy.
what I think's happening here. So we're up at 19, and ironically 20. And for the past year, a lot of times what happens in this draft is something I'd call the Bara death match, which is you're now fighting to avoid the worst faction
Hmm.
for $1. And so as you get closer to that $1 faction, teams will bid to avoid the worst faction. And I think that this has kind of started now, where these teams have looked at what's left and said, I don't want Lannister. Maybe they're saying, I don't want Tyrell. What else is still on the board here?
Tyrell and Lannister, and
That's it. So this is kind of showing you how badly people don't want to play both Lannister and Tyrell.
yeah,
And so
and
now they're having to really kind of push up what they consider to be the last, reasonable house.
hmm I agree with you. I mean, the interesting thing is, also like this could be an assumption about the restricted list. Danny notoriously doesn't like combo, and the only successful like Tyrell list for the since Mace got hit
Right.
is
I
this
was
combo
hearing
build.
White Book was talking about should Mace come off the restricted list. I would say based upon, I mean, not that we're talking about Mace in this bid, but this is kind of suggesting that it won't. That that no love is coming to Terrell um,
I mean,
is not expected on this restricted list.
and Austin City at 27, by the way, now for Barra. I think Tyrell is a very dangerous card pool. They have some of the most broken cards in the game. Uh, are Tyrell cards. Mace is one of them. Hightower is one of them. The Ladies Draw event is another one. And of course, Growing Ambition is busted. Um,
Hmm.
and if any of those cards ever come off, it's like, I think it's the same thing when people talk about ban lists in other games. Like, what is the value of taking a risk of taking Mace off worth it for the designers? Because if you miss and Mace is busted again, like you've just made the game miserable again to the reason why you initially restricted him, right? Like,
Yeah, and it's also that Mace decks are not. Nobody want. I don't. People don't really want to play them, and they don't want to play against them.
uh,
They're. It's my personal opinion. They're
that's
not the
that's
most
fair.
fun.
Scumbo King himself, Jake Platt, is up now for $1. He's at 6 from Austin. Jake is infamous for playing combo, for causing Thronestoberfest last year alongside myself to not count the cut rounds for the uh, team tournament. A rule that we're not following this year. The cut rounds do count for the team tournament and the individual tournament. Jake's just all around known as one of the most solid players in Wausau. He had a really fantastic 2018. His 2019 has not really been as stellar, but Jake is still definitely one of the best players in Wausau. But of course, uh, he does have stiff competition in a meta full of kids and Nick Hansen's and Sam, of course, Sam Bratz. So, but it looks like either Mel or Glazer, I think, is getting. Glazer got him for 10, which I think, based on how much effort Platt has been putting into the game over the last year, $10 for Platt is about where it should be.
So one of the things, I mean,
Oh,
I was wrong about what would happen in this draft. I thought less money would be spent on faction, on house.
so now we got the who's not going to get Lannister bid, by the way. The
Yeah.
green cards were thrown out by Talia. So Talia and Mira are willing to play green cards. That Matt and Sean,
Okay. The death match is
the
happening.
death match is definitely happening. Like, who does not want to play red cards?
It's up to 14.
Well, as a person who would be on Matt's team, I really do hope rather that I'm not stuck playing Lannister cards. But that is my least favorite faction. Um, but it looks like it's also Talia and Mira's least favorite faction as well. So, I know Mira is a big
18.
Night's Watch player, big Martell player, and Talia is a big Greyjoy and Targaryen player. So, you know, Tyrell is much closer to those playstyles maybe than Lannister. I mean that Tyrell is, yeah,
Still going 21.
21, 22
22.
now.
So this is the danger that happens, when you wait. And not only could both of these teams kind of be screwed at this point, if you're going to get Lannister for a buck, is there enough talent still left in the player pool for you to now spend your money well?
So, I mean, Mira and Talia can buy Lannister from them if they really don't want to. Like, they have more money than Matt and Sean do. So
It's up at
26, by the
20,
way, chat. It's
up at
now
26.
up to 26 with
Just saying, whoever
Team
loses
Canada.
this is going to have Lannister at a
Oh.
buck. 27 now.
Mhm.
They need to immediately shift towards just
The best
buying
players
the
left.
best players available right now. Be willing to overpay a bit. I think we've seen kind of this happen before. This is what kind of this happened with Tom McKenzie and Sam Bratz in a recent event like this. Okay, it's over at 27. Talia got it.
Talia got it for
27.
27. Yep. And
You just don't want to be in this position, and that's why a lot of other people had gotten their factions early to avoid what just happened.
Yep,
Because
they
both of these
definitely
teams are kind of in trouble.
they definitely got smashed there. Yeah, I mean, and so what did Matt threw out? Tom McKenzie for one. And that's, what, they shifted exactly into the strategy you just said. Tom McKenzie is one of the best players left. He's also a well-known Lannister loyalist. He's played a lot of Lannister, even when Lannister hasn't been very good, and has had success with them. And he was the Lannister. Was he the Lannister chief at Jesse's name day too?
Yeah,
JMD too.
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Did he end up spending so much so that
No, Sam was. Yeah, he ended up spending so much on Barra that Sam didn't ended up with Lannister, right? That's what it was.
something?
I'm trying to remember.
I think they both finished in the bottom half
So.
after that. So it did the damage.
Yeah. 16 now. Tom McKenzie with McKenna swiping in there to steal it from Team Canada there.
Well, Team Canada probably should keep going.
Yeah, they probably should. They definitely should.
Especially because Tom likes Lannister right?
cards.
Yeah,
so
this is a good fit.
So...
I mean,
nope.
I'm starting to worry about you, Roy.
That's
I'm worried
okay.
about your team.
James got it for 16, so that puts McKenzie playing orange cards alongside. I mean, we're still pretty early in this draft, and people's money are drying up. I think Team Canada are the people with they have the most money at 45. Well, 45 max bid, excuse me. They have 51
Hmm.
dollars. And
Yeah,
the
and their
team,
trick now is to spend it,
yeah, they have to
right?
spend.
You don't get any bonus for having money left over.
I can tell you from personal experience in this format that is true.
And it's painful.
And the
It's
first,
bad when you have to spend four players for $1, and it's bad when you have $8 left over and you say, I wish I had spent
yeah,
more on Greyjoy.
absolutely. And the first part of the Kimpire has been thrown up there. Andrew Kim at $1 initially by Mike, and Mike is defeated Talia at $5. So it looks like we could have uh, Andrew could be joining Team Night's Watch. Nope, Talia gets in at the last second to maybe steal the East Coast part of the Kimpire away. But nope, Mike's in there for 7. You feeling good
Hmm.
in chat there, Andrew? $8. They're fighting over you over there. Andrew has had most success, I think, in his competitive career with builders and playing Night's Watch. So I think he would definitely be a good fit on that team. And of course, Andrew is, one of the big travelers. He and his brother are one of the big travelers of this community. They go to events all over the country and are just the life of the party. And Andrew had a good Gen Con this year and last year, I believe. And he made a pretty deep run at a couple of Northeast Championship Tour events this year. So, and it looks like Talia picked up Andrew, and now we got Jordan Davis, the leader of Jesse's Name Day 2, JND2 Night's Watch team, BFFs with Martin Nays, Austin, and roommates with Austin's co-captain, co-regent, and there's a lot of bidding for him. He's at $8, $9 now from Team Canada, 10 for Mike, 11 for Team Canada. Uh, so Jordan, yep, he was the team leader at JND2. Um, all around good dude, very and one of the big grinders on the Northeast Championship Tour, and Martin's roommate. So it would be interesting to see if Austin is willing to pay for Jordan, because this is one, to go to your point earlier. You know, Martin literally lives with the man, and they play together all the time, right? So there's definitely value in that. 16 to Mike right now for Jordan. So will Austin and Martin bite, or will they not be able to speak for a while about the game? Nope, Austin's in at the last second there as Sandy starts counting down. Um,
Still going at
oh,
18.
Mike is either. So the question is, I mean, Jordan is a nice guy and a great player. So the question is Mike just trying to force Jordan and Austin to pay for their friend, or is he trying to get him specifically for his team? I mean, again, Jordan did really well at Night's Watch. He has experience leading a Night's Watch team and playing Night's Watch. He's been playing a ton of it recently, and it went to Mike for 18. So welcome to Team Night's Watch, Jordan.
All right, Michael Cito, $1, nominated by Matt.
Michael Cito, I believe, is Canadian. I will double check here. I don't know Mike Cito very well. Give me one
Finally
second.
found someone that Roy does not know super well.
I know. Yeah, he's a Montreal person. Yep. I think I met him at JND2, but the advantage of this being the East Coast tournament, is I do know most of these people, at least somewhat. But yeah, he's a Montreal player. Um, Looks like there's some bidding with. He's currently at 7 from
Yeah, and
Talia.
the great thing about this format is I'm guessing after this tournament, everyone will know him better. Like that,
Yes.
nothing brings the community together, and you kind of meet the roster of people than a war event. It really is a fantastic format for meeting new people and then building relationships that kind of circle the globe
Oh,
in their
absolutely.
width.
And Tom HK came in at 11 for Michael. So Michael likes playing Greyjoy and Tyrell, hates Martell. He plays about 1 week or more. He was the winner of the 2018 Montreal Regional and he made the top 8 this year at Canadian Nats. So that's a pretty good record.
Hmm.
And it's paying for about $12 for that kind of commitment. And of course, I mean Montreal isn't that close to Ottawa, but it's definitely closer than other places. So you know, they got to
It's
keep the
closer to
Canadian,
other places too. Yeah.
the other, you know, the
But
Canadian
it shows a
loyalty.
lot that he's willing to travel to Philadelphia, right?
Oh yeah, he and there's another Montreal guy, Daniel, who is coming, who I played at JND too, and is a really really nice person. Um,
So
all right,
both Matt and Tom are kind of still going here.
yeah,
It's at 14, so
14.
I think a lot of people must probably had him on a sleeper list a little bit here.
I think so. I mean, again, like the advantage of, you know, nominally there are a few Canadians here. You know, nominally the advantage that Sean and Matt should have is they know the Canadian players, particularly Sean knows the Canadian players better than anyone. That you think they'd be able to see value, and maybe Vac is forcing, you know, Vac and Tom HK are forcing Matt and Sean to pay for him,
Hmm.
price and forcing a little bit because I believe Tom has a little bit has some decent money to throw around here. Um, Yeah,
David
20,
Bell.
27 available dollars. Isn't bad. All right, Devin Bell, big former big L5R player, plays out of New England. Really nice person. He has tends to do very well at the events in New England. He did well at, I believe, Field of Fire in New Hampshire this year, and he did, you know, he's done well at various regionals and other events up in New England. Really nice person. Doesn't I don't think he plays Thrones. He doesn't travel a huge amount out of New England, but when he is at a tournament, he's definitely someone that you want to keep an eye out and try to avoid in the Swiss. And Mel trying to swoop in and get him for 6, but Tom snipers it at 7. Uh, it looks like both Mel and Tom are up. Mel brings it to 8, Tom to 9.
So
Nine
I think
dollars.
the thing we were talking about earlier, Roy, of like, can you win with taking the quote unquote worst faction for a buck?
Mm-hmm.
Team Canada, which you were on, is going to get Lannister for a buck. So they could actually kind of do it because the amount of money that was spent on other factions is, I think, kind of unprecedented in the format. I just did the math. 21% of the entire money is going towards house here.
Oh wow.
Like the average is usually like 12 or 13%. So rather than things compressing with the restricted list, the regions have gone completely the other direction. So like the conditions are there for Lannister at a buck to do well. It's just that they need to get enough talent now. Like they need to spend their money well, and the question is has too much of that talent passed them by? So
Well,
they do need to be buying the best players available
and
here.
one of them just came up. His name is Kyle Vansel, a longtime player. Was the uh, JND2 regent for Greyjoy, my White Book co-host, founder of IO Worlds, and the money is very low, and I'm really really surprised to not see Matt and Sean bidding on Kyle. Because one, I know Kyle and Sean get along very well, but also because he's famous for playing Lannister. Like his last big success was playing a Lannister deck at Gen Con 2 years ago. He's just a big Lannister player. He likes the Lannister card pool. He likes its themes, and I think that
He would be a
Kyle.
really good Thrones War teammate. He's
Yep.
probably one of the most liked people in the community.
Oh yeah, and he's
I mean, who has anything bad to say about this guy?
no, I
No
mean
one.
I love Kyle. So and so you get the advantage of he's fun to party with, and you know you're going to get wins out of him. So I mean, ten
All right,
dollars.
it's crept up to 10.
It's
It's
crept
crept
up
up
to
to 10.
10, and I mean like this is definitely if Matt and Sean are going to salvage their draft with getting second Lannister, you know this is one of the people they got to pick up. Come
Yeah,
on,
it's
Matt.
hard to say that like you have to do anything at this point. You don't want to go crazy, but it seems like they may be blinking a little bit on some of these players. They seem to be second
Yes, a
on a
lot.
lot of them. So,
And
there's still a
Glazer
lot of roster to fill.
Glazer got him for 11, which is I think like a real steal. And I think it's also because Kyle and Glazer work well together as well. They've known each other for half a decade now, if not longer, as members of the White Book. So, and they built together in the past. So, he's a great addition. Yo Tom, let me look him up real quick because he's somebody whose name does not immediately jump out to me. He's from Pittsburgh, and he plays occasionally. He's a big Martell fan, hates Greyjoy. His favorite card is the Red Viper, and yeah, I think he's just a Pittsburgh local player. I don't think he's a and yeah, and he was put out by Austin for $1. And they're currently making
Yeah.
sure that everybody knows his full name. Yodam Hecklinger, I think is how you would say that, Hecklinger. And it looks like he is going to Austin.
So that
Yep.
might be an interesting, question of like, is that, everybody's got their list of like people they want to grab for $1 that they
Mm-hmm.
can get some good value out of it. And so a lot of times if you want that person, you might try to sneak them in early.
Yep.
So it'll be
Absolutely.
interesting to see whether Austin was trying to see if they could grab somebody before anybody could really figure out who they were. That's because Yotam, safe to say he's a bit of an unknown,
Yes, definitely.
and so that is the potential for a lot of profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Smith was just thrown out by Tom HK, famous for second place at Dance with Dragons last year. The big storyline about him is he is one of the big South Jersey boys, good friends with McKenna and Lamzik. The question is, are they going to pay for their buddy? Um, and I think that this is a little bit of I mean, Ryan's a really good player. He'll put the work in. He'll play what people want him to play. But I do think that definitely it's one of those things where make James and if they want to make James and Mike pay for him. But if you end up, if they end up blinking, you do end up with a very solid player who would make an excellent addition to your team either way. So I think he's definitely one of those players that it's safe for the other regions to sort of run it up to see how much James and Mike are willing to pay. And I think Brian might be joining me at Team Lannister.
Yep, it's over.
Yep, joining Lannister.
So this is one of the reasons why, like, if you're going to be a regent and do this, you do have to do your spreadsheets. Like, if you're going to be a regent, and you have to rank things so that because we're at the point in the draft where, especially like Team Canada, needs to be looking at the board and saying who's the best player available. You need to have a good sense of like what's left. You have to have a dollar value on every single player in the draft, so that you just have a good sense of what's left because they need to spend their money correctly now.
They do. I mean, and then there's still, the real people who I think also could end up being a little bit in trouble are Alex and Mike. I mean, they have only $15 left, and two players, um, besides themselves, obviously. So that's a pretty risky situation to be in. As somebody who was in that situation with my draft with Team Stark this past year, it was difficult to navigate to make sure that you find those value players at $4, $3 you're willing to put the work in and grow your team. So real quick, Benji was put up. West Coast man himself, my former teammate, in two different team Night's Watch together. Benji is an amazing teammate and a cool deck builder. Both times I was with him, he brought his own different build of Night's Watch, but he will be building with Mel, and Mel is on team. What's her faction?
Stark.
Stark. So he's joining Stark with Mel and Ibri. So I bet
And
Ibri's also happy that they have Team Stark too.
yeah, and like Stark at 7 again, just because we don't know, that could be great.
I think it's going
I
to end
mean,
up being great. Like, I
I
think even
mean,
if one or two
if the
cards.
restricted list, like I'm feeling 100% certain that it's going to hit Greyjoy. Does it need to hit Stark?
I don't know.
Like that's I don't think it needs to happen at all. And so like that's not a bad gamble at all. Stark for 7.
Matt Kreft for $1. Matt plays out of the Midwest. He was on my winning team for Team Tyrell. He was on Glazer's team for Martell last year. I don't remember if he went to War Prime. I think he did, right? Trey was at War Prime. I can't
Didn't do
100%
that one, so
remember. But he was a big value player for me at Team Tyrell. I think I paid $2 or $3 for him, and he ended up making the cut and defeating the King of Swiss in the elimination rounds. And he did I think he went 4-3 for Glazer last year. So I think he's a little bit of one of these like real value players. Matt doesn't really
hmm
doesn't travel that much, but he's definitely that like $5-10 player that is going to get you 3-4 wins and has that chance to spike. And he's also a fun guy to have on your team. So I think right now floating around at the 5, 6, $7 range is very solid. Talia for 8 brings him up to 8.
it's very solid. Especially like, remember when you say he can get you 3 or 4 wins, that means if 4 wins is better than average player,
Right.
like just right there, that's already better than better than average. And
Right.
so you should absolutely be willing to spend $8 for a better than average player with a good chance to make the cut, especially with the right house. Like
Yes.
that can be the building block of a good team. It's not as sexy as grabbing a top 5 player, but these are cornerstone players, especially he's got a lot of war format experience, good teammate.
Yep.
That's very
Puts the work
solid.
in. Oh, and this I believe is the reigning. Let me double check to make sure. Yeah, Owen Bayern, he is the reigning Winds of Winter champion. Also had a good run, I believe, at Fields of Fire. This is sort of the first season that he's played really competitively, but he's had a hell of a season. He won the first necked event of the year, his first major one that he went to, and for a while was in the running with Derek Shoemaker to win our Player of the Year race out here. I think people are, underpaying for him. Like Owen is kind of like a rookie player, but his rookie year has been a good one so far, with a win and then a top finish, which, when you've only played in a splattering of tournaments, that's very good. So this could end up being a state. Uh, so that's $9 currently to Tom HK.
Yeah, what's your theory? A lot of times in these war events, we have players that have like recent success that you're talking about here with
Hmm.
Owen, who didn't really maybe didn't play a lot before then, and then we a lot of times see players come back to the game. Who I'm thinking of, for example, like John
John
Bruno, who
Bruno.
was a god in the game at one point, and then occasionally comes back for these events and not just doesn't like how important is understanding the current meta
I
and
think,
how much can you teach up?
I
There's a lot of
think,
catching up that has
I
to happen.
I think it's all about the effort, right? Like,
Hmm
so like, I think like Bruno's a great example of this. Like Bruno doesn't put he relies on his native skill most of the time, from what I understand. I haven't been on a team with John, but that's the impression I get talking with him. But some of these people, when they come back, they really put the effort in, right? So I think that it's more effort. So like,
Yeah.
are you coming back to just because you're just a pillar of the California community like Bruno is, and maybe he'll run hot. Bruno's just a fantastic game player in general, or maybe he
hmm
won't, right? And Bruno with multiple card designs and great finishes at war events, like he can do what he wants. He's John Bruno, right? Same with Corey Faraday, right? Like, and people would be great to have one of the goats of the game on their team, right? But I think for other people, they're if they're willing to put the effort in, you can train them up at this point with their raw
This almost
card
should be
games
like
too.
a question on the player survey. Player survey is like, how much effort are you really willing to put into this thing?
Yeah,
One to one to 10. That might be an interesting thing just to have people
that
self-report on.
and that might be something that the War Prime organizers would definitely consider doing for next year. Um, you know, but I think a lot of the goats they do get overpaid for a little bit, but they can run hot because they really are. Like John is one of the best card players to ever play Thrones. Same with like Ryan or Corey or Kid. But if they're more recent success, it doesn't necessarily show that. But
All right, they're currently bidding on Andy Boyd,
Boyd, yes,
right?
Andy was big DC, old DC guy. Had a good run at Thrones War this past year, I believe. He also did pretty well last regional season up here, and and is was one of the last recruits to the old school DC Corey Faraday folks, and is sort of like one of the connective tissues between that way of playing the game and the sort of current new DC folks out here on the East. And Andy is definitely a very, very solid player. And $11 for him, that seems about right. All right, Jaron Wagner. This is Jaron is been on a tear this year in the Northeast Championship Tour. He has not won an event, but he has been in the cut. I think at every single one that he's attended. And he is very good friends with Derek Shoemaker, which is why you definitely see Glazer metamate. They build together, they play together. Jaren's had an amazing year, basically only overshadowed by his friend Derek, who has won 3 events. But he is definitely one of the people who was in the running to overtake Derek for our Player of the Year race. Just all around fantastic player and having an amazing 2019. I would not expect the $7 Glazer is currently paying for him to be uh, to stay there, and we see that with Mel raising it to 8.
Yeah, like one of the things that happens a lot of times while these war drafts are going on is as players get added to the team, they immediately like become part of the Facebook chat. Like I don't know for a fact that this is happening, but I know that certainly happened with Buzz and Sid with Team Banff earlier in the year, and so it's very possible that Derek is in chat with them right now, saying, "Grab this guy. He's
Yeah,
working really hard. I know. I'll work with him."
we can play
And
in the kitchen table together. Yeah,
Right. So there's a very common thing, and especially if you're dealing with players you don't know. I don't think we're really to that point in the draft yet, but a lot of times, like trying to decipher the new players who have signed up, and you don't have a lot of data on what kind of players they are. Having somebody in chat telling you, "Oh yes, this person's really
my
keyed in right now." Yeah.
absolutely, I definitely agree. And $10 for Jaron, I think, is a steal. Like I think Derek last year I think went for roughly the same thing and ended up being I think one of the steals of the draft, and Jaron is definitely one. All right.
Like in a sense, this almost like the flip side of just like we were talking about with effort. Like, do you know which John Bruno you're going to get? Do you know which Alex Black you're going to get? Like, if Alex Black's really playing a lot, he's could be the best player in the world. And then there's other times when he doesn't have time for the game.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
so it's important to know where somebody is, like emotionally, or just with their life. And sometimes friends
um,
can kind of check in and tell you that.
absolutely. Andrew Mack. Andrew Mack. I don't see an Andrew Mack. Oh, Andrew McCauley. Okay, there we go. Excuse me. I'm sorry. There we go. Andrew McCauley is one of the DC players. He plays multiple times a week. Loves Barra. He is a big Barra person, and he has won a handful of Store Championships and did well at this year's Dance with Dragons. He was in second in the Swiss, made it into the cut at that very, very competitive game event that we had here. So and he went to Austin for 3. I think that is a amazing steal. I mean, based on that. And then Todd Moyer, one of my co-organizers of the Northeast Championship Tour. Todd's event, the Battle of the Bay of Crabs, is coming up soon on the 21st of September. So make sure that if you're on the East Coast, that you head out to Battle of the Bay of Crabs. Has had I think Todd started playing about 3 years ago and has had consistent, solid success throughout since the Northeast Championship Tour kicked off. And is a great teammate, likes to play innovative events. They're just, I think, all around a nice middle tier kind of building block kind of player in these kind of events. He'll test new things out for you. He'll make sure that, and try to get that churn of innovation that these kind of teams need. And I think that you see that with McKenna, Tom HK, uh, and Austin all betting. It's currently Austin is winning with Todd for
It's
at
at
eight
eight.
dollars, which is
Yep.
I think maybe a little under for Todd, but I think at this point we're sort of where the money situation is. This is I think a pretty fair place for Todd to be.
Yeah, I got to know Todd at this year's Thrones War. He was part of the group that flies into Los Angeles and then drives down to San Diego, and so a lot of people had a chance to like get together in Los Angeles for some Korean barbecue and some drinking before heading down for the event. And Todd was part of that group, so I got to know him then.
And then we've got Scantrell. Steve is one of the sort of longtime pillars of the community, famous for sharing deck lists all the way back to first edition, being a very prominent first edition player. I think he's bought a house, has had a kid or two since the peak of his 1.0 play, but he's still you know handles the FAQ, does a huge amount of community work, and he had a
Prominent reviewer.
prominent reviewer, and I believe he went to Talia for $4, which is value because Steve doesn't get to attend a lot of events, and I know he is one of those people who will put the effort in. When you can only go to a handful of events a year, you're going to really put the effort we can. And now we go the Humbert. So Matt might be going for the Humbert meta strategy. So we thought maybe he might try to get the people who are falling through the cracks, but it's clear that the Canadians aren't doing that. But, the Humberts haven't gone up, and the Humberts are, Storm has not come up yet. Like, Storm is definitely one of the best people left here. Race is a really good dude. Probably, I had him on my team for Team Tyrell. Put a lot of work in. Was a very solid. I think he went 4-3 or 3-4 for us. I played him at my winning in against him was at this past JND2 for Team Tyrell, which he was on with his brother. I think the Humbert meta could be a safe place for Matt and Sean to spend their money.
Yeah.
But Mel's currently winning at 5 to Mel. Got him, says Matt. So yep, Mel picks up race. So the Humbert meta plan didn't work out for the Canadians either. So the straws are slipping for Team Canada. Jeff Holder. Um,
Yeah, if you're Team Canada,
so
I would hope you have a list of 5 or 6. I mean, well, not 5 or 6, but because you're only drafting what 7, 8 today.
yeah,
Our
eight today,
spreadsheet shows more slots than are actually
because it was just churned over
there.
from UK
Yeah,
Thrones War. Jeff Holder is a Maryland player. He's won multiple Star Championships. Made day 2 at Worlds. And just has consistent finishes across several different regionals in the Maryland community. Sort of just like one of the Maryland folks. Jeff is going to. He's currently at 4 for Austin. So teams are really starting to shape up now. We've got. I mean, Aaron and Schoenthal are in a tight spot here with only 7. It looks like Canada and $7 available. Canada and Mike Lamzick and James McKenna are the people with the most money, but we haven't really seen them throwing them around. All right.
yeah. I'm not sure Glazier and Chris are necessarily in a bad place because they've got $10 for 4 slots.
That's pretty good.
That's
Uh,
pretty good.
Big Jersey guy Kiko is up there. Kiko is just one of the sweetest people in Thrones. A Martell loyalist, big Jersey player, one of the co-organizers of Lord of the Crossing. One of my favorite people to have at a tournament. I love Kiko. He's been putting the work in, grinding, making his game better. Great teammate, fun person, willing to sort of follow what if you say, "Hey Kiko, work on this," he'll do it, and would be a great addition to any team. You got disconnected? All right, hold on. No, according to Glazer, they can hear you. Hold on one second. There's technical difficulties.
So I think we're sitting at 4 here
Yep,
while
we're
they work
sorting
this out. So maybe just
everything.
expanding on what I was starting to say, $10 to fill 4 slots is not terrible. Like
Mhm.
that's totally workable. And you probably just, if you're Aaron and Chris, you wanted to see how do I get the most value out of that 10.
Mhm.
The advice I give to anybody who talks to me on here is people should, it's not quite at the point yet, but some of these teams are filled out more. You want to look at the end of your draft and make sure you have at least $2 to spend on every slot. Just because you can do so much better with $2 for a player than you can for one a lot of times. So that's one of those like top 5 tips to regents is that when you get to this point in the draft, it doesn't mean it's bad to get a player for $1. Just hopefully you had them rated a lot higher than that
Mhm.
and it just worked out. What you don't want to be is stuck at the end of the draft and you have no control over who ends up on your team. So they should be thinking, I'm going to make sure I keep $2 for every slot. And now, where can I get value by nominating somebody? Um, and some team owners should be thinking about, being ready with that quick $2 bid now. We're getting to the point where people are going to nominate somebody at $1 and it's possible the first person in at 2 can get them,
Mhm.
right? Because budgets are starting to get tighter. There's still a decent amount of money sitting out there. And what you might be seeing also is for the teams that still have a lot of slots to fill and a lot of money to spend, they should be looking at who are the best players available and eyeballing them. And they're just wondering, can I still get this person are these teams all waiting to bid on the same player?
Mhm.
I don't have a good draft list here. That I usually do when I'm observing and not commentating, but everybody should have a good idea of like, here are the 5 top players remaining and what do I expect them to go for, and who fits with my team so that I know I don't want to let this player slip past me without, you know, maybe even expanding the numbers I originally had on them to get them,
Yeah, I mean,
especially if somebody's a good fit. Again,
there's
you don't,
still.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, 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 that's it.
There's still some beef out there. Like Jess Thompson
Hmm.
is not been brought up. I'm trying to sort of go through
Yeah, she
who
might be the best player available right
um,
now. That would be a good guess.
Storm also.
Storm is Lucas
Adrian
Reed.
is very solid. Tom Bentley is a Philly local who's had a pretty solid year so far. I think that might be just sort of as I scroll down there. We still got Edward, right? He hasn't come up yet, right? Jimmy Stewart is also a pretty solid person
Very solid
left,
and great teammate.
and then Sam Whitehead also is a good teammate, member of the Golden Company, that new Midwest build group that's been making some waves. That's sort of just me scanning it here. So we've got Storm and Slade. So we got 2 Humberts down, 2 to go. So Sandy's currently attempting to get back in. So we're gonna take a quick break while they sort this out to also let me take a necessary bathroom break. So we're going to let me turn back on the studio mode, and we're going to do that real quick. Um, Steam stream starting soon. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to mute everybody. So we'll be back. All right, we are back in here. I'm going to say back in here. We're back online. Thank you for waiting for us while we solve these technical issues. Um, I apologize, of course, for everybody, but they're going to be back. We're going to be picking up with Kiko from where he was with being nominated by, I believe it was Mike. So Mike Aroro. All right, so Kiko for $1. And here we go. And McKenna brings him to 2. Mike brings him back up to 3. And we're good. I think we're back up to 4 with James McKenna. All right. 5 seconds left with James McKenna. It looks like Kiko is going to be joining his fellow Jerseyans on Team... They're Martell, right? I haven't done a super good job of... I'm still shell-shocked I'm on Team Lannister, so I haven't done a great
No.
job.
It's a lot to take in, and you keep on referring to people by their first names, and I'm looking at the spreadsheet and saying, don't know which team that is exactly.
Right.
I was going back and reviewing the chat in Twitch that I've not been paying attention to, but some highlights. Someone thought that my commentary is what they're thinking, 10 out of 10. So I just, happy to have my own horn tooted, as disgusting as that sounds. Kyle weighed in, saying you once referred to him as a transcendent Lannister player. Do you want to comment on
Yes,
that?
I'm still... Look, one of the advantages of this break is I was able to blast Matt Gaiman about not getting Kyle Vansel, so... And he'll hear more about that. He is a transcendent Lannister player, which I am not. All right, so now we are on Felix Saint Amour. I'm very
Saint
bad with
Amour.
French,
Saint
so
Amour.
do not. I apologize
That
in
is a great
advance.
name.
It is
Felix
a great
Saint
name.
Amour.
I don't know Felix super well. Let me put him in there. He is a Montreal player. I mean,
Of
that's
course.
one would assume based on his name. And also he was put up by the Canadians. And Mel looks like they are might be grabbing Felix, but Felix plays once a week.
I'm not
And
the only one imagining a skunk kissing a cat right now, or is that just me?
that's between you
Wait,
and God.
that may just me.
He's had decent results the past year and good results to start championships, and he has a 63% win rate on Jousting Pavilion, which is pretty solid.
Did you say 68%?
63.
That's still incredibly solid.
Yes. And all right, here she's thrown out there by Talia, Jess Thompson, leader of Team America, former Lannister Regent last year. So I definitely think it's only tit for tat that Matt recruited for Team Lannister this year. Easily one of the better players that the top tier nationally ranked players left in the pool. I mean, Jess's career in the community sort of speaks for itself. She's a huge community personality, big organizer, and a great player. And she's had a really fantastic year. So, and she's currently threatening if I end up on a house I don't want, I'm bringing free folk. Buy at your own risk. So she could just get DQ'd. So,
she's threatening the
I
regions
mean, look,
to
she
draft her.
that's so very Melisandre of her, So, she's currently gone to 11 to James, so hopefully she's okay with playing orange cards.
Just happened. All right, I think some people blinked there because I think she's the best player. She was the best player available, and there's too much money still floating around.
Oh yeah, I
11's
agree
too low for her.
100%. Great
That
pickup for
was
James. Adrian.
People may still be coming back from the bathroom on that one.
Yep. She's gone up for $1 by McKenna. Talia has currently grabbed her for $3. And it looks like Talia is going to pick her up. She plays out of the Midwest. I believe she was at Thronestoberfest last year. She was at War this past year. And I'm trying to think. I think she was at JND too. Yeah, she was at JND too as well. And all solid performances there. So it looks like Talia is grabbing her for $3, which I think is a very solid pickup. Very, very solid pickup. Good value. And I think, how close are we getting? So Talia and Mira are 2 people away. as far as I can tell. Um, and so are Mel and
That's right.
Ebri. Oh,
Yeah,
and
they've
and
got
Austin and Martin.
$6
So
to fit 2 slots, which is pretty good.
and Storm Humber. Here we go. I think this is going to be a flashier one. We got Matt bringing Storm up to 6, and I'll apologize real quick here. My dog and my wife just came back from my dog's walk, so she's running around very excitedly. You might have just heard her.
Yes. Bidding's up to 10.
Bidding's up to 10 on Storm, 11. So the question is, will the Canadians blink here? Uh, they've blinked a bunch of other times here, and let's see if they can do it.
They have $28 to spend for 5 slots. And whether this is best player available, hard to say, but probably one of them.
Definitely one of them. You know, and
It seems like they've determined this is where they want to spend their money. Matt's at 13. Team Canada's at 13.
at 13, I don't think McKenna really can risk more, right? Based on the ready money. So I think at this point, 13 has just purchased him.
Yeah, if McKenna did this, they'd be down to no more than $2 per slot. No, they don't have that many to fill, so it's possible they could push on a little bit here, but they haven't.
I don't think they will. I can hear Sandy counting down.
Yep.
13 to Matt. So Storm building with his brother. That is not a human name, is true, Matt. Storm is not a human name, but he's, storming right into Team Lannister. Welcome to the orange card red card. Wish we were playing orange cards. Red card
yeah.
revolution, Storm.
You're having a tough time coming to grips with your situation here, Roy.
I really am. I really hate Lannister cards. So Chris Wong. Chris is a Jersey player, good friends with Tom HK, good friends with Vac. Has had really good success on the Northeast Championship Tour. Solid Jersey player. I definitely think he's worth more than $1. And I think that that is a really solid like $3, $4, or $5 player. Chris doesn't play that much, but he is definitely a regular on the Northeast Championship Tour, and is definitely worth.
It's bounced up to 3.
But yeah, 3's about where it is. 4, okay, because the last people they're filling out their ranks. I think he's definitely somebody that it's worth Lamzik and McKenna to put their little money.
Sure.
Into him. $4. Yep, that seems about right. You can have that piece of Larry. So that's Vac. Vac must be in control of the keyboard currently. All right, James. 2 James for 4. All right. All right.
There's a lot of players you're going to be willing to spend 2 to 4 that'll be solid parts of your team, and especially because there's going to be people that are. I'm just looking at the list here. I would say there's like 7 or 8 people that I have no idea about whatsoever, and they're doesn't mean they're good players, bad players. It just means that they're unknowns, and that could be an incredibly risky thing.
Risky, but also rewarding if you did your research. And
can be, yeah. But an 0-7 player can kill you.
Been put up by Mel, and Ruro Mike has bid her up to 2. Natalia was on my team for Team Stark. 100% would draft her again. Great teammate, great energy, willing to put the work in. She's a newer player, but she's definitely just like one of the very solid sort of newer players to have on your team. Because again, great energy, willing to put the work in, and just a fantastic teammate. So it looks like she'll be joining Teams Night's Watch, which was, and Thronestoberfest last year was her first tournament. So she went. She
was on my Lanny team for this year and was part of that group that came into LA. And all the things you said, I agree 100% about her. Would love to have her on one of my team again.
I would as well. Rob Wilkie was one of my car friends to J&D2. Great guy, just fantastic Floridian player. One of those people you want on your team. Because I think he's got potential, and that he's just a great teammate and a great person to have a ridiculously long car drive, but from Chicago to the middle of freaking nowhere. Glazer put him out for $1. I think Glazer, who was in the car with me, knows that Rob's a good guy to have on your team, fun to have around. And he's Currently at $3 to Mel and Steve Ebery. To Mel for 3.
Sold.
All right.
Okay, so they only have a single slot remaining. Oh, and they only have a buck to do it.
All right.
So that's tricky. That could.
They could just sort of have the last player standing. Edward Kim for $1 from Glazer.
So as
Again,
an
just
example now, it means that they can't actually bid on anything anymore. And in fact, then they nominate, they either get them or lose them. So as you know, because I know you've been there, just having $1 per player is a really tough place to be.
it is. I ended up very happy with the people that I ended up getting $1 with. They were great teammates, great members of the team, and we had a really fun team. But like on a pure Jamie perspective, it's a tough spot to be in.
Hmm.
So Ed Kim looks like Edward Kim is going to Talia for $4. Talia Mira. I mean, considering Edward is a teammate of Mira's, it as an excellent pickup for that team. Is the Kimpire separated this time? I can't remember where where Andrew ended up being.
Nope, the Kimpire is together.
Is together. All right, they're united. The question
Which
is, will the Kimpire energy bring all of them the success that we all hope that the Kimpire? I'm always hoping that the Kimpire will bring their team a huge amount of success. Left and right, right again. Yep. All right. Vanessa is one of my favorite people to see at any tournament. She, like me, is a big Buffy fan, although I'm more of a recovering Buffy fan than she is. She's a Stark loyalist. She's also Mike's partner. So Mike grabbed her up for $2 there. Vanessa's amazing, though. So
circling back around to Thrones War this year, I remember you and one of your teammates were upset with my prediction that your team wasn't going to do that well, and a lot of it was based upon that you had to take 4 players at $1, and that had been you just had a lot. You didn't have much control in the team that you put together there. And I'm not saying anything about those players, but
Right.
it is like one of those tips for people that want to do this in the future is just to try to avoid
Yep.
avoid that situation. So, and I think I ended up being right about that a little bit.
We ended up doing better than you predicted, but we did not do fantastically. We were not the worst team.
No.
So Jimmy Stewart was put up. Jimmy's just a great teammate, great dude, big Martell player,
Shakespeare expert,
Shakespeare expert. Yes, his sonnets.
speaker of sonnets, reciter.
I love
Yes.
Jimmy. Some solid performances in the Northeast Championship Tour. He's gone to Thrones for like 2 years in a row now, I think.
Yep, he was on my Martell team 2 years ago.
Yep, big Martell loyalist. McKenna picking him up for.
Well, he's a man of taste and distinction. Yes.
That is true. I mean, he's a Shakespearean actor. So $11. I mean, that is like very like they're paying premium to I think get this loyalist on their team and fill out their end of their roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, they still have one more person. Yeah, so I mean they're kind of
and they save $2, so that's exactly what you want to do.
Cool. So they're in a good spot.
So they may
Slade,
have
here we go. The
identified-
final Humbert. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
The final? Yeah, I guess so.
There's 4 of them, right? So one.
Yeah, I know you're right.
One didn't get.
And
picked up by
what is the correct spelling of Slade?
I have no idea. Whatever's in the spreadsheet is he entered.
Again, not a human name.
So Slade Humbert. It looks okay. There's fighting between Team Canada and Austin. Sitting currently, Austin is winning, and I hear
How
Sandy
bad do you
counting
feel if
down.
you're
So we
racing?
might have. Matt snipes in at the last second. Nope. Austin says 7. Team Lannister has 2, 3 spots to fill out and $12. So the question is, are they going to go up to 8 here for a Humbert? And I hear Sandy counting down. Yep, 8. All right, is Austin gonna put Matt and Sean in a situation where they spend the rest of their money? Oop.
They are.
All right.
Austin bids 9.
9. How much?
Might have actually done them a favor there because of where they would end up had that 8 gone through. No, I don't know. Team Canada still got $15. Yeah. Tough
And
call.
looks like only 2 Humberts will be joining me playing red cards. And Austin now has what?
I'm happy for Race Humbert that he wasn't the only Humbert not on Team Canada. So it's good
They're
that we've kind of
split. They're
spread the Humberts
separated.
around. Yeah, this is better. It's better for the game.
They have $2 left and 1 spot to fill. So again, they can put somebody up and possibly steal it from another person in the same spot. Lucas Reed. So Luke Reed. For those of you who hated losing to Pinch of Powder, you can blame Luke Reed. I really love Luke. He's one of my favorite former champions. Iowa neighbor of Kyle Vansel's. So he took a long break from the game, but has come back in the last year or so and has been putting big effort. And I actually spoke to Luke 2 days ago, and he said that his good success at not Gen Con, U.S. Nationals this year, like really like energized him and made him want to like jump back into the game. And he was playing Greyjoy Stag, a deck that is sort of off meta, like, and had great success in one of the largest tournaments in North America. So definitely this, like, I definitely think Matt or Aaron paying for him is definitely a good bet. But I can also see, you know how you said earlier that team chats yelling at you about picking somebody up. I can definitely see Kyle yelling at Glazer right now to get Lucas because they're close personal friends, they're neighbors, their wives are friends. Like Kyle and Luke play together all the time. So um, yeah, looks
Right,
like
it's
Team
gone back
Canada's gonna
and forth
snatch it up
between
though.
them. Yeah, it's 7 went back and forth between these two. It's up to 8 with Team Canada. This may be their best player available in their opinion. It's hard to say
Yeah.
exactly, but
And I think it became too. I think they made it too rich for Glazer's blood. Yeah. So nope, Glazer couldn't boot as soon as it reached 8. Glazer couldn't match. So because he only has $7 left,
right.
right? So and Glazer forced them to pay for it. Um, all right, Chris I'm gonna
Yeah, I think Aaron wanted that.
I think
They, he
I
took
think he
it to
did.
the maximum he could, and so if he could have gone further, he
Chris.
would have.
Oh, okay. So Chris here is a Connecticut player. He plays 1 to 3 times a month. He's a big Free Folk, Greyjoy, and Tyrell player, and he's done top 8 or 2. And he sadly seldom goes to tournaments. And Chris is gone to his neighbor Mike because he's from Connecticut, and Mike is the big national representative of the Connecticut meta. So Mike and Alex pick up Chris.
I think Chris, from what I understand, has not played a lot of tournaments, but has his actual win rate on Jousting Pavilion is very high. So small sample size, but when he plays, he's been winning.
All right. All right. Um, all right. We're waiting. I think we're at the point now, having done this before, where you're like going through the list and seeing
Mm-hmm.
who is left, because it's not always easy to track once you get down to this few people
So
who's been picked and
let's
who's
look
been
back at
not.
your team. It's most fun to talk about Team Canada. Lannister for $1, even though it hasn't happened yet. That's
It might be the last thing that happens in the draft.
right. So in reality, they have $6 for 2 slots,
But that's not bad.
which is actually no, it's not bad at all. It's just as long as there's some players that they still actually want to have on their team, and there should be.
And Dan Mueller is one of them. I think Glazer's going to snatch him up probably, or Tom HK. I think they both have more money available than Sean and Matt do at this point. But Dan Mueller is, I think, the face of the Montreal meta. I played him at Jesse's Name Day 2. He beat me, and he also made the cut and had a deep run. I think he was in the top 16. I think he won at least one of his cut games. He may have gone further. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. I was way too hungry and then drunk to remember what was going on in the cut. And then we had to leave then the next day. So and Tom HK picked him up. He was definitely one of the stronger people left. So that is I think a big loss
That looks like a
for
really
Team
good
Canada there.
deal. I mean, if you have a player who's made cuts in these type of events before and you can get them for $5, that's really solid.
Yeah, and that's a good Julio. Uh, Khal Drogo himself. He looks a lot like why is the name of the actor escaping me? Who played Khal Drogo off the top of my head? The shaggy
Aquaman.
hair, likes to take his shirt off. Julio is a fun teammate, great guy to have at tournaments. Is just a great teammate. And Glazer looks like Glazer's picking him up at 5, which I think is pretty
He's
solid. That's a
bid
pretty good.
5, yeah.
Julio's, he's a good grinder at the Northeast Championship Tour. He's at the events. He does pretty well. He's in the winners bracket frequently, making a few cuts and some deep runs. He was at the top 4 of the tournament I won last year. He was my only loss in Swiss that year, but I avoided him, thank goodness, in the cut, and I was able to win that. All right, so Mike has thrown out Michael Weaver. Mike Weaver is part of that Central PA meta, alongside Derek and Jaren. Mike was on my team Night's Watch, and he did well for us. He got us the wins that we needed, and was a great member of the team. I can't quite remember what Mike played, but he's just an all-around great guy, great teammate, put the work in. And I'm actually a little bit surprised to not see Glazer bid, but does Aaron not have a huge amount of money left?
I mean, he
He
just
has
spent
3.
5 on
Yeah, so
Julio,
he's at
so his
yeah,
max bid is 3, and he still has 3 slots to fill. So,
yeah. So Mike Weaver's too rich for his blood at this point.
yeah, for them, $2 is probably a more realistic max bid. They want to go 2-2-1 and hopefully get somebody for $1.
Hey, Lannister was just put out. I wonder. Okay.
All right, next we've got some joke bids in chat.
We
But
definitely got
Lannister at
joke bids.
$1
3
compared to
million.
these other prices might be pretty good. All right, they've moved on, as they should.
Winston Wan. I like Winston a lot. I played him at Red Saturday this past year. Really nice guy. I would imagine that he would be a great teammate. He doesn't come to a huge number of non-New England events, so it makes sense that Talia, who is one of our New England people, put him out there, and that, of course, the other New England representative also bid on him as well. So currently, Mike and Alex are winning with this, and I think it goes to Team Connecticut for $3.
All right, we're down to like our last 12, 14 players here.
I think so. Is
Yeah.
even that high at this point?
It's about 12, I think.
Okay. Winston is part of the joint Swedish-U.S. PUBG squad with Luch. All right, Alan. Alan is a DC player, and he looks like he's just going. Nope. Matt says $3, not 13.
This is Alan Sarkeesian. Yep.
Alan Sarkeesian, yes. He was, I believe, King of Swiss at Dance with Dragons this past year, and it looks like Matt just picked him up. First bid counts. And it looks like he's joining me at Team Lannister. Welcome to the red card revolution here. And I think that's a good pickup. Alan doesn't play a huge number of tournaments, but has done consistently well at the tournaments that he goes to. It was $3 in Canadian. Very good. So very, 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 very.
That's probably,
good
I
pickup
think,
there.
I like pretty good finish for Team Canada.
Is our team closed up now?
Yeah, that's it. So
That's
they had
it?
$3 to spend. They may have identified Alan as the player they wanted,
And they got him.
and so they got him. So
So we
you
just
know
have
they
one
end up.
$1 player left to pick up.
Oh, did I get this wrong? They do. You got $3 left for one player. All right.
Okay,
So I was wrong.
$3
So
left
they
for
still
one
got
player.
one more slot.
One more slot, and $3 should let us
But
pick up somebody.
you should have some
Anthony. Oh, I'm gonna mess up his last name. Bronchio, I think. Is that how you say
Bronico.
it? Bronico.
That's the way they're
Just went
spelling it in chat.
to
Yeah.
$2 to Austin.
Lehigh Valley, Bethlehem. Is that
That's
Pennsylvania?
no, that's by Allentown. If you're familiar with that Billy Joel song. Uh,
I know the song, but I
it's
don't know what
closer
state
to
that is.
it's closer to New York
Okay,
than
but
uh,
it's Pennsylvania.
it's Pennsylvania. It's northeast Pennsylvania.
I hear
So rate so
Bethlehem. I think steel. Yeah.
yeah, it's steel country. So Rachel went to is been put up by Rachel Sickerville for $2 by Tom HK. And Rachel, welcome to Tom and Vac's team, and they are Tom and Vac are Team Greyjoy. So
Yeah.
welcome to Team Greyjoy, Rachel.
So Aaron and Chris still have the most slots to fill
Matt
left.
Jenkins. I love Matt. Matt was on my team. Stark. He is just an amazing teammate. Fun guy to have in play. Has had his ups and downs, but puts the work in. Uh, and I would draft him 100%. He's good friends with Chris Schoenthal. Loved having him on Team Stark, and this is, I think, a really great pickup for Glazer and
Aaron. Yeah.
Schoenthal. And
I
doesn't
lost to
surprise me
him
to
at Thrones War, and you know, I felt very good losing to Matt Jenkins in Thrones War. He was a gentleman.
he is a gentleman and a scholar, because I know he's just finished up a degree, so he is a gentleman and a scholar. Sam Whitehead was put up by Glazer for $1.
What do we know about Sam? Iowa?
Yep, he's Iowa. Good friends with Vansel. Good friends with Luke Reed. I like Sam. He was on my winning team for Team Night Swats at Jesse's Name Day 2. Great teammate. I don't remember. Did he play Builders with us? He might have been one of our attrition players. My memory is a little poor about it. But Sam is a very solid pickup. He's somebody that Kyle can play with and is a really good addition to their team. All right. Glazer, I believe, now gets to go again since we're a snake draft.
You're snaking.
Unless Glazer is Glazer full now? Yes. No, that's McKenna. Wait, where's Glazer?
Nope.
No, they need one more person. So
You got $2. So they made it a moment here. And
figure it
see,
out. Oh,
he said
and
Abel for a buck.
Abel,
If
James
he's
Abel.
got $2, he should be bidding $2.
Yep,
So that's probably a mistake.
to prevent somebody from snatching him up. Most people who travel for Thrones Tournament have met James. He is a sweetheart. He will put the work in. He will be a great teammate. He's one of my favorite people when he travels up from Florida for tournaments. Yeah, James is great. Is Mel going to snipe in here at the last second and steal Abel away?
I kind of want her to just because
Punish
Aaron.
Glazer?
Yeah.
Max punish, but it doesn't look like it. Nope. She put Scott Seas, who's a Philly local, and you can definitely see Tom HK picking this up. He played his own Stark Brew to the top 4 at this recent Dance with Dragons. I like Scott a lot. He was a 1.0 player as well. Roommates with Tom Bentley, who I don't think Tom has gone up either. Both are part of the Philly meta. I like Scott a lot, and I think he will be a great pickup for Team North Jersey with Tom HK and Vac.
So that was probably an example of. I mean, there's not a lot of players left, but the danger of like nominating for one is somebody swoops in at 2, and then it's over. So teams, if you can get somebody for 2, some people should be sitting on players to be quick jumping in on 2 here.
So Michael here is one of the New Hampshire folks. I don't know him super well. I've only been able to make it up to 1. He went to Jesse's Name Day tournament, and and looks like just a solid one of the New Hampshire folks. And he went to Tom HK for $1, and Tom is done. Tom and Vac, they have their team. And James McKenna just put Tom Bentley, Philly local. I like Tom. He is a former Magic player. Um, has a good head in the game, puts the work in, grinds stuff out. I get to play test a lot with Tom because he's one of the other Philly people. Good pickup for James. James is definitely we'll get to play with Tom. He's one of the few. Again, we have a pretty small meta here of people who actually are in Philadelphia, so Tom is a very good pickup for them. All right. I believe Talia is and Mira are next. So are they? I think now McKenna and Lamzik are also done.
Yeah, there's only 4 teams left, and there's 4 slots to fill.
And I think Tom going this late is a big steal. Actually, I think. Let's see who's next. Terrence Oliver, I believe. Terrence.
So Team Canada has jumped in here with a bid of 3 after being nominated by Talia at 2.
And
Hashtag got him.
got him. Yep. Is that the end? Is Team Lannister full now? I believe we
That should have done it, yeah.
are. Yep. All right. So that puts Terrence puts us. Welcome to the red card revolution. Red card, excuse me. Revolution, Terrence. All right. So that means we got 3 teams left and 3 spots left to fill. So I think at this point, do we have enough money floating around that? Yes, Mel and Ebri can be outpurchased by one of the other teams, but I think they just get who's ever left, right? Based on the direction that the draft is going now. With Mike putting Christopher Cow, who is a another Lehigh Valley
Yeah,
player,
I mean,
really nice guy. Doesn't like
Mike gets
travel
the
a huge
pick.
lot. Be a great.
Yeah.
I think he's a solid $2 pickup here. Actually, he'd be definitely a player if I was in Mike's position to pick up here at $2 at the end of the draft. I think he's a little bit of a value.
Hasn't played much, but did fine when he did.
Yep. All right, joining Team Connecticut. All right. And what do we got now?
I think we only have a couple players.
So we have Jamie. They are good friends with Talia, and they're based in Connecticut. Not Connecticut. I'm excuse. They're based in Boston or Cambridge, to be precise. I think very. I mean, and they have a pretty solid record actually. They don't travel a lot, but they are excellent players. I've played them several times and enjoyed every time. So excellent pickup by Talia and Mira. So Rachel is Mel and Ebreeze. I think that's the last player, right? Or is there still one more that needs to be filled? Nope. I believe Rachel brings this draft to a close. Welcome to Team Stark, Rachel. I think
that is it. All right. Do we want to take stock now?
We definitely should. I was gonna throw it to you, Trey, because you are the least biased person here, because you're not involved in the draft. So how do you think? So like, who are the big winners? Which team do you think are the big winners from this? That's usually the safest place to start.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always hesitant because I feel like I don't really know that much about, was a certain player worth a certain amount? That's so much of the game, and I also just kind of don't know that. I think the big surprises in this draft, like number one, would be how much were paid for houses. Like I thought things should tighten because of the restricted list issue. It didn't happen. It went the other way. A lot of money got spent. So based upon that, I kind of feel like this might have ended up with a situation where I think there's some losers on the house side, but I think there's some opportunities too. On the opportunity side, I don't think Lannister at a buck, given how much everything else went for, is bad at all. It's just a question of, did Team Canada get enough value from the money they had, or did they kind of have to overspend in the second half of the draft to fill up their slots while they were chasing? Did too much of the draft kind of the value in the draft already pass them up? Um, I'm looking at Team Martell. That could be a really great team. It's just a question of like how, are Martell's, is the death of Martell overstated or not? Because especially if the Mystery Knight is Tom Malucci.
And the Mystery Knight was Tom Malucci. So.
Okay. So you can now reveal that the Mystery Knight was Tom Malucci. So Tom Malucci, Chris Thompson, Tom McKenzie, I don't know Kiko, but Jess Thompson, Jimmy Stewart, I don't know Chris Wong or Tom Bentley. That's a lot. That's the most talented team at first blink here in terms of just known successful players. That's a big roster. And it's also the case that like players tend to love or hate Martell, but I think more experienced players a lot of times tend to be the kind that love it more, and so I'm betting they're going to make that work. So I would say that's an early winner. I wouldn't count out Lannister at a buck. I'm not predicting victory here or anything like that, but I think that going cheap this year was pretty good. And then we look at Stark at 7, and that could be crazy good. I mean, did people just really overreact? Or, at 7, everybody is kind of saying, yes, Stark's going to get hit by the restricted list in a really significant way also, which would be weird because they're not actually dominating the meta right now, right? So there's some opportunities there, and there's a lot of, solid players on that team as well. Greyjoy 22, who knows, right? It's all going to depend upon the restricted list, and then we kind of get to like the ones that I think are kind of like clear, probably mistakes or just the way the auction played out. It's a problem. Is Terrell at 27? That's a lot of money.
It is.
Barra
at
27.
Card pool.
I think yes, Barra is not the same as they were, but I would never have guessed that Barra would have I could maybe see Barra going for 10 right now, and instead we're talking about 27. So that's a lot of money, and I think both of these teams spent that in order to avoid Lannister, right? And so that's a problem. Target 28 seems fine, and in the end, Night's Watch at 34 might be a very good deal. Especially, it's looking better just because so many other teams had to pay something pretty close to what they paid for houses that are probably not going to be as reliable there. So the team's Night's Watch once again might really be in it, just because Night's Watch, especially in this format with those regents and the people they put together, that'd be a pretty good bet.
So yeah, I think the interesting thing about specifically Night's Watch is that I don't think either of the regents are particularly experienced Night's Watch players, but they have Nick. So I think like Nick is like as a third, the third head of the dragon.
Right.
I don't think Mike has registered not Greyjoy at a tournament. So I know Alex has played throughout the card pool, and he may have played Night's Watch a couple of times. But I mean, Nick is of course, a rat cooker and a Night's Watch Wolf player, and Chase is one of his metamates, right? So like he has just a font of Night's Watch knowledge. So picking up Nick, and then of course Jordan as well, having led a team. So you have a lot of, I guess, institutional knowledge of Teams Night's Watch. So
and they've got a stable of like $2 and $3 players, and like we know that with Night's Watch you can say, hey, less experienced players, we're going to do builders. And you can totally win this event by getting $2 players that play builders, and they go 3 and 4 and 4 and 3, and you win. Like that's, when you get that kind of performance out of $2 players, that actually can absolutely win you the event.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I think that basically brings this to an end, unless um, I was I'm getting yelled at. Okay, so let me go through here, and this is about the Mystery Night thing. So the Mystery Night thing, I guess I'll address this now. Which is that Tom suggested he wanted to sign up as a mystery night, and we thought it would be fun to, and by we, excuse me, Roy Rogers, thought it was fun to sort of stir the pot about it, and that it would be more fun. Tom filled it out. Some regents sniffed it out, some regents didn't. I thought, as to be fair as possible, I told no regent who it was, and any time that I was asked, I said no comment or through the same kind of misinformation. This was just meant to be a fun thing. If people wanted to risk and read the thing and said they thought it was Luch, they were welcome to bid as high as they wanted. If they didn't, then they didn't. I will take the full and complete blame for this. It is not Tom's fault. It is not James McKenna and Mike Lamzik's fault. People are welcome to message me and bring it up with me personally. But again, this was my decision at the end of the day to do the Mystery Night thing. I thought it would be fun. But yeah, so I think that's kind of it. I will sure people will message me and ask me about it publicly again, but just sort of to end the stream about that. I thought that the Mystery Night thing was a lot of fun, and yeah. So, but the experiment failed, so yeah, which is
Well,
fine.
thanks for having me on the podcast.
We're
I
very
think
happy to have you, Trey. You did an excellent
these
job
these
with
events
this.
are great. I think everybody will calm down, and this will be a great event. A lot of people will get together. Nothing is set in stone, especially because the mystery night not end up on your team, Roy. It will be all right. So come to the
Oh,
event, have a great time. It's going to be fantastic.
yes, I'm sure it will be. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. I will see everybody in October and Thronestoberfest
Second Sons this
this
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I'm sure we'll address all of this stuff. And yeah, so have a great week. Good luck with all the competitors. Yeah, and I'll see everybody on October 19th and 20th here in Philadelphia.